Hi, thank you for watching Digging to China. I'm Dong Shuang. Last month, the Chinese province of Henan was pounded by once-in-a-thousand-years rains that caused tremendous damage to life and property. The provincial capital Zhengzhou suffered devastating floods. We saw harrowing images of water levels rising with terrifying speed in subterranean subway stations and tunnels, heart-stopping rescues amid raging torrents, and the distraught citizens struggling through chest-deep floodwaters. The human and economic tolls of the inundation is incalculable. Floods have been recorded ever since settlements first emerged along the Yellow River in northern China. Part of the founding myth of Chinese civilization is the story of Yu the Great, an emperor who united the realm over 4,000 years ago by taming the waterways of China's heartland. Since then, fighting the floods has been a key occupation of rulers. Successive dynasties have sought to harness the rivers that feed China's hinterland, but also cause devastating flooding. According to research by Liu Zhenghua at the Zhejiang University of Water Resources and Electric Power, between 206 BCE and 1936, there were 1,037 major flood disasters in China, or one every 2.07 years. The capital city of the northern Song dynasty, Kaifeng, has suffered 7 devastating floods since the 4th century, with a new city built on top of the ruins each time. At around the time that the terracotta warriors were being prepared for their 2,000-year guard duty at the Emperor Qing's tomb, floods plagued the area around the Chengdu plain. These inundations were regular and disastrous for the local agriculture at a time when war was common and armies needed feeding. Fortunately, the governor of the time, Li Bing, was a hydrologist and irrigation engineer and set to the task of taming the floods. Li Bing, together with his son, discovered that the river was swelled by fast-flowing spring meltwater from the local mountains that burst the banks when it reaches the slow-moving and heavily silted stretch below. One solution would have been to build a dam, but Li Bing had also been charged with keeping the waterway open for military vessels to supply troops on the frontier. So, instead, he proposed to construct an artificial levee to redirect a portion of the river's flow and then to cut a channel through Mount Yulei to discharge the excess water upon the dry Chengdu plain beyond. Li Bing received the funding for the project from King Zhao of Qing and set to work with a team said to number tens of thousands. Li's water diversion system was made up of 3 main parts: the fishmouth levee, the flying sand spillway, and the bottleneck channel. The fishmouth levee was an embankment built to split the Mingjiang into an inner and an outer river. The inner river was built deep and narrow and used for irrigation, while the outer river was wide and shallow and drained away excess water and much of the silt. In the dry season, the inner river carried 60% of the river's flow for irrigation and 40% in the rainy season, tackling the problem of seasonal flooding. The levee was constructed from long sausage-shaped baskets of woven bamboo filled with stones known as zhulong and held in place by wooden tripods known as macha. The bottleneck channel was carved through the mountains as a runoff for excess flow and to distribute water to farmland. Cutting the channel through Mount Yulei was a remarkable accomplishment, considering that this project was undertaken long before the invention of gunpowder and explosives. It would have taken perhaps 30 years of working using human labor, hammers, and drills. But Li instead pioneered the use of thermal expansion and contraction techniques to crack the rock by heating it with fire and then quickly cooling it with water. The channel cut through the Yulei Mountain and was completed within 8 years, diverting water for irrigation to the east and relieving water pressure elsewhere. The result was an ingenious arrangement of levees and channels that has been known ever since as Dujiangyan. It had kept the flow of water within a predictable range, protecting against floods whilst keeping enough water flowing downstream to move the emperor's armies by boat. Dujiangyan is the oldest and only surviving non-dam irrigation system in the world, and a wonder in the development of Chinese science. The system is still in use today to irrigate close to 700,000 hectares of farmland, draining floodwater and provide water resources for more than 50 cities in the province. This incredible engineering has affected so many people over more than 2,000 years. In the 1st century BC, China's historian Sima Qian wrote this in his Records of the Grand Historian. After the completion of Dujiangyan irrigation system, people who lived in the Chengdu plain would no longer suffer the harassment of the Minjiang River. Thereafter, people here can live in a huge abundance away from starvation. Li Bing's ingenious irrigation system at Dujiangyan paved the way for the Sichuan Basin to become one of the most fertile farming regions in all of China, nicknamed the Land of Abundance. Dujiangyan, now a United Nations World Heritage Site, is admired by scientists from around the world because of one feature. Unlike contemporary dams where the water is blocked with a huge wall, Dujiangyan still lets water go through naturally, enabling ecosystems and fish populations to exist in harmony. We still have much to learn from our ancestors today. Thank you for watching. Please leave a comment and subscribe to my channel. Just click the subscribe button right here. I'll see you again shortly.